the frozen glow of Minneapolis nights. Cole Whitmore stood in the silence of a boardroom that had just emptied the glass walls, reflected his tall figure back at him, and beyond the reflection, the city stretched dark and restless brake lights, smeared across the icy streets below like blood-red fireflies caught in a storm. He should have been celebrating. He had just closed another massive deal, the kind of victory that made headlines in financial journals and earned him nods of respect from rivals, but instead he only felt the hollow weight of yet another triumph piled onto a mountain of others that meant nothing. His associates had clapped each other on the back, gathering their laptops, their chatter filling the air with cheap enthusiasm. But Cole only adjusted his cufflinks, checked his Rolex, and mustered a thin smile, waiting for them to leave so he could finally breathe. When the room was empty, the silence pressed against his ears, heavy and absolute. He let out a long breath he did not know he had been holding, then turned toward the elevator, his leather briefcase swinging lightly at his side, his navy suit immaculate, his overcoat tailored to perfection. Yet every step echoed exhaustion he had learned to disguise, but could not escape. The elevator descended with its soft, sterile chime, and when the doors opened onto the parking garage, the air was colder and harsher than the world he had left upstairs. The space smelled of exhaust and faint mildew, the polished, concrete floor reflecting the dim yellow glow of security lights. His phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. Emails, texts, dinner invitations, and urgent updates from his assistant. But he ignored it, his eyes fixed on the sleek black S-Class waiting for him at the far end. He walked briskly, his footsteps echoing between the gray pillars, his breath visible in faint clouds, the world outside pressing its frost through the concrete walls. Then something stopped him. At first he thought it was nothing, just a bundle of clothes discarded against the wall near the exit ramp. But the shape moved, and in that moment his pulse stumbled. It was a child, a little girl standing barefoot on the gritty concrete, her thin arms wrapped around herself for warmth, her once bright blue dress now hanging in tatters, the sleeves too long. Swallowing her fragile hands, her head bent, chin tucked deep into her chest, as if she could disappear entirely. Beside her sagged a pink backpack, one strap nearly torn away. Cole's first reaction was not pity, but irritation. What was a child doing here alone after dark? This was no place for innocence, no place for anyone without armor. He slowed, glancing around. Surely a parent was nearby, a security guard, someone. But there was only silence and the faint whistle of winter wind sneaking through the garage door. His instinct told him to walk on, to slide past into the warmth of his car, and leave the problem to someone else. He had done it before, ignoring need closing, his heart to the mess of other people's suffering. It was safer that way, cleaner, easier. But as he neared the girl, she shifted and stepped forward into his path, her bare feet making no sound, her eyes hidden beneath a curtain of tangled hair. She looked up at him just enough for her lips to move, her voice barely more than a ghost. "Sir," she whispered, "please help my mom." The word stopped him cold, as if the whole city had frozen around them. The usual garage sounds of cars and traffic above had vanished, the silence thick and unnatural. Cole's chest tightened with something that was not just winter chill. He crouched, knees pinching in protest, his expensive coat brushing the filthy floor, and tried to keep his voice gentle. "Where is your mother?" The girl's face blotchy with cold, and tears lifted slowly, and when her eyes finally met his, he saw a storm of fear and desperate hope so raw it struck deeper than any loss in business. "The man she's hiding from," she whispered, every word trembling. "He's in our house." Cole's breath caught the sentence, crashed into him harder than the fiercest merger or the most brutal negotiation. His fingers tightened unconsciously around his keys, his instincts to remain detached, rational, cold, all sputtered and died in the face of terror etched onto a child's face for the first time in years. Cole Whitmore felt utterly powerless, all his armor built from wealth and reputation shattered in the space of a whisper. He glanced toward the entrance, half expecting security or some stranger to appear to take this burden off his hands. But no one came. It was only him and the girl, strangers trapped together on the edge of a winter night. He reached out carefully, trying not to startle her. "It's all right," he murmured. "Let's get you out of the cold. Can you tell me your name?" She did not answer. only hugged her arms tighter and gave the smallest nod. He guided her toward his car, each step heavy with a responsibility he had never known before, his hands trembling as he opened the passenger door and wrapped his overcoat gently around her thin shoulders. She was so small inside the vast leather seat, the faint warmth of the heated interior swallowing her shivering frame. When he slid behind the wheel, his breath shook. The silence between them was enormous, as if the entire city was waiting to see what he would do. He started driving, the snow-streaked streets sliding past in frosted flashes, streetlights smearing across the glass. Emily. He finally coaxed her name from her in a fragile whisper. She sat huddled with the backpack pressed tightly to her chest, as though it contained her entire life, her bare toes curling against the warmth of the seat. Cole tried to sound calm. "I'll take you to my building, somewhere safe." She nodded, eyes lowered to her hands, chapped nails ragged, her silence heavier than words. Cole's mind raced. What to do with a child like this? Who to call? What if she was running from someone dangerous? What if she was telling the truth? They entered the gleaming lobby of Westfield Equity, its glass walls and marble floors polished to perfection. The security guard looked up, startled to see the CEO leading a barefoot girl through the pristine space. Cole ignored the stares, sat her on a sofa, and fetched a bottle of water from the fridge. "Here, drink," he offered. She clutched it with trembling hands, whispering no thanks, just with a tiny nod. His heart twisted as he pulled out his phone. "I'll call the police," he said gently, already scrolling through numbers. But before he could finish, Emily recoiled so violently he thought she might run. Her voice cut through the marble hall, sharp and desperate. "No, they don't listen. They know him. He wears a badge." The words hit Cole like a stone. He froze, images flashing in his mind, memories he had buried once before. He had ignored a plea, a young accountant trembling as she reported fraud. He dismissed her, let compliance handle. She was dead weeks later, suicide, the coroner had said. But guilt had clung to him ever since, and now here it was again, raw and unyielding. Emily's fear, unshakable, her trust, brittle. Cole's phone buzzed incessantly. Assistant board chair, IPO, crisis. But for the first time he muted it without hesitation. He lowered himself onto the sofa until his eyes met hers. "I know you're scared, but I need you to tell me why me. Why did you come to me?" His words surprised him, soft, not commanding. Emily bit her lip. "I saw your suit. Mom says people with money don't help, they only care about looking good." She said it like a challenge, but also a test. Could he be different? Cole swallowed hard, resisting the urge to defend himself, to list charities and foundations, but he knew they had been walls distance from real pain, not connection. He reached out slowly so she could pull away if she wished. "Not this time," he whispered. "I'm not like them. I'm here because you asked." For the first time, she studied him with steady eyes, braver than most adults he had ever met. "Finally," she whispered, "take me to her." Cole stood, his phone buzzing with missed calls and flashing alerts left behind, ignored. He walked into the frozen night beside her, every step shrinking the distance between their worlds. She led him through streets and alleys, her small figure cutting through the wind, her shoulders hunched against shadows, but her resolve unshaken. Cole walked beside her, no longer just a man in a suit, but something else, something uncertain yet stronger. They reached the crumbling duplex hunched between taller buildings, its single flickering light a fragile beacon. She pointed. "That one," she whispered, fear trembling in her voice. Cole rested, a hand on her shoulder. "We'll go together. You're not alone." She nodded, and in her eyes he saw the faint spark of hope. Cole tightened his grip on the cold brass doorknob of the duplex. His heart beat louder than the distant hum of traffic. The night pressed in around them, heavy with frost. Emily clutched her backpack close to her chest, her thin shoulders trembling, not just from the cold, but from the weight of fear that seemed too large for someone so small. Cole had faced corporate enemies, ruthless boardrooms, and billion-dollar collapses, but nothing had ever made his hands shake like this moment. The life of a stranger hung in balance, and yet he felt as if it was his own soul being tested. The door creaked open when he pushed it, unlocked and fragile, like no one inside cared enough to protect it. The air inside hit him, stale with dust and the faint copper tang of fear. A single bulb flickered overhead, casting the narrow hallway into uneasy shadows. Wallpaper peeled at the corners. Furniture sagged under years of wear. Emily's bare feet made no sound as she led him through the living room. Toward the back, Cole followed his tall frame awkward in the cramped space, every instinct telling him to turn back to call the police to run. But then he remembered her words. He wears a badge, and something in his chest hardened. He would not abandon her. They reached the bedroom door. Emily's hand hovered over the knob before she whispered, "She's inside." Cole nodded. Pushing it open slowly, the hinges groaned, and the sight inside froze him. A woman lay on the floor, her wrists bound with rope, her face bruised, her lips swollen and bleeding. She stirred at the sound, her eyes fluttering open wide with both hope and terror. Emily darted forward, dropping her backpack with a dull thud against the floor. "Mom," she cried, her voice breaking as she fell to her knees, wrapping thin arms around the woman. The mother let out a weak sob, her hand trembling as it found Emily's hair. Cole knelt beside them, carefully loosening the knots, the rope cutting into his palms as he worked, until at last the binds fell away. The woman clutched her daughter tightly, tears streaking down her face when her gaze rose to Cole. Confusion flickered across her eyes. "Who are you?" she rasped, her voice hoarse. He hesitated, then answered the only truth that mattered. "Someone who wants to help." A sudden crash from the front door shattered the moment, footsteps, heavy, deliberate, stomping across the warped floorboards. Cole's chest clenched. Emily shrank against her mother's side, fear radiating from every bone. In her body, a man appeared in the doorway, tall, broad, his face hard with cruelty, a police badge glinting at his hip. His eyes narrowed as they locked on Cole. "What the hell do you think you're doing here?" His voice low and venomous. The mother whimpered, clutching Emily tighter. Cole rose to his full height, his tailored suit stark against the decay of the room. The man sneered. "You don't belong here, rich boy. This is family business." Cole's fists curled at his sides. Every instinct from the boardroom told him to negotiate, to find an angle, but there was no deal to be made with a monster. He took a slow step forward, his voice steady, though his pulse thundered. "I don't care who you are. This ends now." The man laughed, bitter and sharp. "You think your money means anything here? I own this street. I own the badge, and no one cares what happens in this dump." Emily's voice cut through the tension, small but fierce. "No, you don't," she said, her chin lifted, despite the tears streaking her cheeks. "My mom belongs to me, not you." Her courage pierced the room sharper than any weapon. The man's expression darkened as he moved toward her. But Cole stepped in front, his body a shield, his voice low but unyielding. "You'll have to go through me." For a long moment the two men stared at each other, the silence broken only by the trembling breaths of mother and daughter. Cole was no fighter, but something ancient and raw surged within him, the knowledge that some battles were not won with money or power, but with the refusal to yield. The man lunged, but Cole stood firm, blocking the path, his arms outstretched, his voice rising with conviction. "The world is watching. You may think no one cares, but I do, and I will not let you hurt them." The words landed heavier than fists. The man faltered just enough for the mother to seize Emily's hand and whisper, "Run." Cole turned, blocking the doorway as they slipped past, the air charged with tension, until the sound of their feet on the stairs faded into the night. Cole braced himself for the strike he knew was coming, but instead the man cursed, slamming his fist into the wall before storming out the back door, vanishing into the shadows. Cole's knees threatened to buckle as the adrenaline drained from his body. But when he stumbled outside into the night, he saw Emily and her mother huddled on the curb under the streetlight, their breath clouding the air, their faces streaked with tears yet illuminated with the fragile glow of freedom. Cole approached slowly, not wanting to frighten them. The mother looked up, her voice raw. "Thank you," she whispered. "No one ever comes back. No one ever listens." Cole shook his head, kneeling so his eyes met Emily's. "You were brave, braver than anyone I've ever met. Don't thank me, thank her." Emily pressed her face into her mother's shoulder, but for the first time, he saw a small smile tug at her lips. He helped them into his car, warmth wrapping around their shivering bodies as he drove. Through the quiet streets, his mind a storm. But his heart strangely still. He had walked into the night, a man defined by numbers and deals, by wealth and reputation. But he had found something more, something unbuyable. The fragile yet unbreakable bond between a mother and her child, and the chance to be more than what the world had carved him into. When they reached his building again, Cole led them inside, past the stairs, past the whispers, up to the penthouse where the city glittered far. Below he offered them food, blankets, a place to sleep, and for the first time in years his apartment no longer felt like a fortress of loneliness but a sanctuary of possibility. As Emily curled against her mother, finally safe, Cole stood by the window, staring out at the skyline, the frost glittering under moonlight. For the first time he did not feel alone. He whispered almost to himself, but loud enough that the night might carry it further than the walls. Tomorrow, everything changes.